What's better, cats or dogs, iOS or Android, PlayStation or Xbox games? I won't touch those first two debates with a 10-foot pole, but when it comes to the last one, I'm ready to try. And in this video, we're diving deep into the best console exclusives launching in 2026, regardless of a PC release, so you can clearly see who's winning the exclusive war. What's up, guys? It's Broz, and here we go. Let's kick things off with what was supposed to be Sony's biggest secret for 2026, Marvel's Wolverine. We've got a fall 2026 launch window for this PS5 console exclusive, but the story surrounding its development is honestly more dramatic than any comic book plot. This game is now famous for being the central victim of the massive Insomniac Games data breach. That embarrassing hack basically blew up Sony's entire marketing timeline, confirming the release year and dropping major long-term plot spoilers. Specific villain appearances, including the key X-Men antagonist Omega Red, the shapeshifter Mystique, and the cybernetic Reavers faction, were prematurely confirmed as primary threats by the leaked documents. The gameplay trailer essentially reflects all of this, but Insomniac Games was under pressure for a long time because of this whole story. The same team is simultaneously juggling the highly anticipated Venom project rumored for 2027, and laying the groundwork for Marvel's Spider-Man 3. But in contrast to other Marvel franchise titles, Wolverine promises to be much darker, more brutal and bloodier than usual, with the creative director at Insomniac Games confirming it will be a full-size game with a mature tone. The Xbox camp's heavy hitter for 2026 is Gears of War E-Day, taking us back 14 years to the brutal Emergence Day, following younger, less experienced versions of Marcus Fenix and Dom Santiago in the new city of Kelowna. And this isn't just a prequel, it's Microsoft's declared technical showcase, built entirely on Unreal Engine 5. The team at the Coalition, known for their engine mastery, threw down a serious technical gauntlet, confirming that E-Day will use hardware ray tracing for real-time lighting, reflections, and shadows. But here's the number that matters in the console war. The studio boasted that E-Day will feature over 100 times more environment and character details compared to their work on Gears 5. Beyond the sheer poly count, the team also confirmed the game will feature next-generation destruction and gore, alongside cutting-edge animation technology, all leveraging UE5 to the maximum. Creative director Matt Searcy was clear. The goal is to successfully revisit the tone and feeling of what makes Gears great, but with new techniques to make the gameplay feel better than ever. Saros is the next action game from Housemarque, the studio Sony quickly acquired after the success of Returnal. This game is set on the lost colony of Carcosa, maintaining the studio's signature high-precision, cinematic action, where dodges, parries, and shields are absolutely crucial. The protagonist, Soltari enforcer Arjun Devraj, voiced by actor Rahul Kohli, fights to survive under an ominous eclipse across shape-shifting biomes and hostile ruins. But there's a massive philosophical shift here for veterans of Returnal. Housemarque is deliberately moving away from the unforgiving nature of the pure roguelike genre. Saros features a specialized mechanic called the Second Chance system, coupled with permanent equipment evolution and character upgrades. This means every time you die, and you will die a lot, that death actually contributes to your long-term, permanent growth. The combat system itself is a fluid dance, supported by a high-tech arsenal that blends human and alien weaponry, allowing players to evolve strategy against spectacular bosses. It's an intentional decision to keep the brutally difficult, arcade-perfect combat the studio is known for, but make the overall grind and progression path more accommodating. The Fable reboot is the one that Xbox fans desperately want to see succeed, but it remains surrounded by risk. This is a crucial fantasy RPG reboot from Playground Games, and its official 2026 date is under constant scrutiny. While Microsoft publicly reassured everyone after pushing the game from 2025 to 2026, the unofficial news is less rosy. The game has been in development in some form since around 2017, meaning its production cycle is already pushing 8 years. Unofficial sources have consistently murmured throughout 2025 that the 2026 window is still incredibly tight, with a high probability of a slip into 2027, despite assurances from the head of Xbox Game Studios that the first official delay was for a more polished experience. The public skepticism is high due to a lack of comprehensive gameplay, especially when compared to titles like Clockwork Revolution, which had a beefier showing without even committing to a date. For Microsoft, this game carries enormous brand capital, and its success is critical, especially after watching other high-profile fantasy RPGs like Dragon Age: The Veilguard and Avowed face mixed reactions and technical challenges. Fable must justify its prolonged gestation period and silence the industry noise with an impeccable launch. Phantom Blade Zero is one of the most mechanically interesting PS5 titles coming in fall 2026. This is a kung fu punk action game where the protagonist's soul is facing a brutal 66-day deadline to clear his name after being framed. The developers have made a clear and surprising choice. They openly rejected the gear grind in traditional RPG leveling systems. The combat is designed so that simple inputs produce hyper-cinematic, 20-hit combos, aiming for spectacular visuals over complex button memorization. But don't mistake that for being easy. Here's the insider fact for the veterans. The highest difficulty Hellwalker is where things get serious. The boss AI on that level is specifically engineered to actively analyze and adapt to the player's unique fighting patterns in real time, making it a pure test of skill and adaptability. Furthermore, a look at the combat mechanics reveals the level of detail the developers are putting in for seasoned action fans. Actions like weapon switching are on a cooldown, and opening the menu does not pause the game, even when facing a boss. Healing is also restricted to a flask that requires an animation to play out. These hardcore constraints confirm the studio is prioritizing pure, high-stakes, reaction-based gameplay. The next installment of the Forza Horizon franchise is confirmed to be heading to Japan. However, the game's competitive importance lies not just in its desirable location, but in Microsoft's clear strategic use of exclusivity. While Forza Horizon 6 is slated for an early 2026 release on Xbox Series and PC, Microsoft officially confirmed that the PS5 version will be strategically delayed. What is known so far? It's mentioned that the map will be the largest in the series. Confirmed locations include Tokyo and Mount Fuji, which will combine urban areas, neon lights, and lively streets with rural and mountainous nature. Features like K-cars, iconic vans, as well as a great focus on tuning, drifting, and Japanese automotive culture will be included. The developers confirmed that seasonal changes will remain in the new installment, but they want to integrate them more deeply into the Japanese setting. For example, so that the snow on Mount Fuji or the cherry blossoms in spring are not just background, but genuinely affect the gameplay and the feeling of the world. To achieve this, they worked with cultural consultants to ensure Japan feels authentic and respectful. And it will be very interesting to see how the sixth installment of this flagship racing series from Xbox turns out. Team Ninja's Nioh 3 is officially hitting PS5 and PC on February 6. The sequel shifts the focus to the conflict between brothers. The protagonist Takachiyo faces his own brother Kunumatsu, whose envy and hatred drive him into the embrace of darkness. Set against the backdrop of the ancient Queen Himiko's emergence, adding high-stakes historical drama. Mechanically, Team Ninja is making some significant changes. While the game is not a fully open-world title, it is moving towards a more open design than the rigid mission structure of previous games. More importantly, the player now gets to specialize in two distinct combat styles. They can follow the standard samurai path, mastering devastating close combat, or embrace a sneakier, more agile shinobi life, which is new for the series. The most refreshing insight came directly from the developer's office. A producer for Nioh 3 openly stated that the game is not the kind of game that lives or dies on things like atmosphere or graphics, stressing that the primary goal remains refining the core, brutal action RPG mechanics based on continuous fan feedback. For longtime fans of the zombie survival sandbox, the biggest hurdle for State of Decay 3 has always been technical limitations, which Undead Labs is now addressing by moving the project to Unreal Engine 5. But here's the key insight. They're collaborating directly with the technical experts at the Coalition, the studio responsible for Gears of War. This partnership is Microsoft's clear signal that they are serious about giving State of Decay 3 the polish and scale its ambitious community management, base building, and resource-gathering mechanics demand. The previous games were largely defined by the loop of kill zombies, guarding buildings, scavenge, upgrade home, and repeat. Now early teasers suggest a dramatic environmental shift, moving the core scavenging loop out of the typical urban setting and into a harsh, snowy wilderness, which fundamentally changes how players approach survival. This expanded environment and the expected growth of features, like more robust sandbox base building and advanced vehicle customization, absolutely require the technical heavy lifting that the Coalition can provide, a feature heavily requested by the community. While State of Decay 3 doesn't have a firm release window, reputable insiders close to Xbox suggest it could very well arrive in 2026. Arc System Works, the masters behind Guilty Gear and Dragon Ball FighterZ, are tackling the Marvel Universe with Tokon Fighting Souls in 2026. Forget the standard competitive formats, because the biggest mechanical shock here is the adoption of an ambitious and frankly unorthodox 4v4 tag team system. This deliberate deviation from the typical 1v1 or 3v3 was implemented to fully capture the sheer chaos and intensity of huge Marvel team-ups, demanding 4 characters on screen. The mechanical depth is provided by the new Assemble gauge. This meter allows players to chain multiple, highly cinematic ultimate skills across their entire 4-character team in rapid succession, a system that veterans will recognize as a spiritual successor to the delayed hyper-combo mechanics from Marvel vs. Capcom. The studio's explicit design goal was to make the game approachable for newcomers but satisfyingly deep for competitive play. One specific detail designed for veterans is that manual input attacks do slightly more damage than shortcuts, directly rewarding players who master the classic fight stick inputs and promoting aggressive play from the start to build meter quickly. When Clockwork Revolution was first shown, many immediately wrote it off as a BioShock clone due to the aggressive steampunk aesthetic. But the developer Exile Entertainment is not a typical shooter studio. They are the RPG masters behind Wasteland. The key fact here is how deep the role-playing DNA actually runs beneath the shooter surface. Exile has explicitly confirmed that Clockwork Revolution is a true immersive sim RPG, featuring character creation systems complete with attributes and background traits, which is a massive differentiator from action hybrids. Furthermore, the dialogue systems are complex and choice-based, meaning player background and decisions directly influence the narrative path and quest outcomes. This level of agency confirms the game is far beyond a simple shooter with a time manipulation gimmick. The core mechanic involves the player using a time-altering device to shift past events in the Victorian city of Avalon, forcing high-consequence choices that ripple into the present. The combination of intense first-person action and sophisticated, branching narrative confirms that Clockwork Revolution is an ambitious attempt to bridge the gap between visceral gunplay and true consequence-driven role-playing that veteran Xbox players will appreciate. Arknights Endfield is a massive gamble, transforming a popular mobile tower defense IP into a full-scale cross-platform tactical action RPG for early 2026. The developers Hypergriff have the vast financial resources from their mobile success and are using them to create one of the year's most bizarre genre hybrids. The game takes place on Talos 2, a distant moon, and involves settlers stranded after a technological gateway called the Ethergate malfunctioned. This new setting is rife with catastrophe-like phenomena and monstrous enemies. However, the huge mechanical twist is the fusion of action with complex simulation systems. Endfield incorporates deep, intricate infrastructure and factory-building mechanics into the core gameplay. Players must not only command a party of operators in real-time combat, but also manage massive industrial production chains within their colonies, a feature that brings to mind complex PC titles like Satisfactory. According to feedback from test participants, the world of Endfield is divided into separate yet quite large regions for exploration, so it can't be called an open world. It's the only game on this list that will be released on mobile platforms iOS and Android, in addition to PS5 and PC. EXOMECHA is an intriguing indie competitive shooter hitting the Xbox ecosystem in early 2026, combining infantry combat, vehicular warfare, and giant mech action. This game is built around massive, chaotic skirmishes, supporting enormous 20v20 conquest modes and a huge 100-player mecha battle royale. When the project first gained traction, it was developed almost entirely solo, but has since grown into a core team of 5 people, which is an incredible feat for a game of this scale. While early trailers were fast and sometimes criticized for being too chaotic to follow, that perception is changing rapidly. Over the last couple of months, the team has been releasing extensive exclusive hands-on demos and 10-minute gameplay previews that clearly demonstrate the flow of combat, solidifying its place as a promising Halo and Titanfall hybrid. These latest clips confirm high-intensity mech action and the use of grappling hooks for rapid vertical traversal across large map, a feature crucial for navigating the 100-player environment. While EXOMECHA was initially conceived as free-to-play, the devs officially confirmed the launch price will be $20. This decision was driven by the high cost of operating a large-scale online game independently. Like many, I expected this release in 2025, but all the data suggests it will happen in 2026. Prior to the China Joy 2025 exhibition, Sony officially announced the funding for this game, and judging by the long available gameplay and the new trailer, it is already in the final stages of development. Daba Land of Water Scar is a Souls-like action RPG with a distinct Asian flair, backed by Sony's strategic China Hero project. The game is developed by Darkstar, the studio previously responsible for Sinner Sacrifice for Redemption, giving them a solid track record in the difficult Souls-like genre. Although it didn't succeed, it looked interesting at the time. While the genre is saturated, Daba immediately sets itself apart with its unique protagonist. The player controls a puppet, a humanoid figure crafted entirely of clay, as they navigate the ruins of the ancient city. This aesthetic choice is more than just visual. It gives the game a profound, almost fragile tone, contrasting the puppet's artificial nature against the backdrop of a massive, interconnected, non-linear world. The environments promise significant variety, ranging from gloomy prisons, abandoned ruins, and vast rift valleys to expansive snowfields and even a floating city, suggesting a much larger scope than standard niche titles. Exiledge, a 2026 third-person shooter also supported by the China Hero project and also funded by Sony, has a clear dual focus, aiming to deliver high-fidelity spectacle alongside emotional narrative depth. The game is set on an apocalyptic planet, featuring thrilling missions and dangerous enemies. What truly separates Exiledge from other action games on the PS5 schedule is the explicit narrative emphasis. While the technical standard is clear, the developers have placed equal weight on delivering a deep, emotional story and a rich cast of compelling characters, putting the narrative weight on par with the action. This commitment is a crucial differentiator because the third-person shooter genre is constantly criticized for prioritizing generic spectacle and military tropes over genuine plot and character consequence. The game is staking its success on the audience being ready for a high-fidelity shooter that is also a genuine character-driven drama. This clear focus suggests that the international partners Sony is cultivating are looking to blend the best of Western technical standards for the visuals and gunplay with strong original Asian narrative complexity, aiming to attract players who want more than just a standard action blast. Zero Parades for Dead Spies is an interesting announcement. This title is an espionage RPG, which gains its weight from the developer lineage of the critically acclaimed Disco Elysium. This alone guarantees a certain level of sophisticated, consequence-driven dialogue and writing that few others can match. The creative team is applying their complex narrative structure to a tense, high-stakes espionage setting, steeped in paranoia and surrealism. The protagonist, Herschel, is described as a brilliant, yet unfortunate operant, struggling for redemption in a world where trust is scarce and betrayal is constant. Crucially, the official description directly tells the player that they are entering a world where failure is inevitable. This uncompromising tone confirms that the game inherits the unique, anti-heroic narrative DNA of its spiritual predecessor, focusing on the mental and moral decay of its protagonist, not just the action. And as a bonus for PS5 owners, Parasite Mutant is a dream fulfillment project for a very specific segment of mature gamers. This release is openly positioned by its community as the true spiritual successor to the '98 PlayStation classic, Parasite Eve. Why is this important? Because the original Parasite Eve pioneered a specific, now-abandoned genre, survival horror blended with deep strategic JRPG combat and complex progression systems. Square Enix largely moved away from that unique DNA in subsequent releases, eventually leaving a massive, decades-long void in the market. Parasite Mutant explicitly aims to fill that niche precisely, promising to bring back that unique synthesis of biological body horror, inspired by mutated mitochondrial threats and satisfying stat-driven role-playing. The immense community reaction, widely confirming the game looks exactly like Parasite Eve would if it had stuck to its designs in the modern age, highlights the strength of its core concept. For those who remember the PS1 era and the deep strategic horror it offered, This title is one of the most exciting niche prospects on the PS5's 2026 calendar, confirming that some indie developers are willing to revive the specific genre combinations that AAA studios have seemingly forgotten. In my opinion, both consoles have seriously impressive exclusive projects, so I don't think there's a clear winner in this fight, but I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Drop a line on who you think is leading the charge and which 2026 games you're most hyped for. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.